You're listening to Paranormal Concept right here on Parasearch UK Radio with your host, Paul Rook.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and tonight, as ever, I'm joined by the lovely Kerry Greenaway. Hello, Kerry.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, not too bad. Stressful week, but what can I say?
Stressful. You don't even know the meaning of the word.
Oh, believe me, I do.
I know you do. You have had a pretty harsh week, but you're doing okay. You're okay.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, thrashed it all out at the Game of Thrones convention Sunday. You know,
Yes,
a few
you
sword
did.
fights and jousting that I won and everything. You know, no one come close. Not even the Hound.
Yeah, right. In your dreams.
Actually, the Hound was there, but yeah, he was somewhere else. I didn't see him all day. Coward.
Coward.
Didn't want to confront me.
Of course, that's exactly what it was.
Indeed. Well, tonight, what show we got planned? We are literally launching the Living Paranormal Parafest that's on in August on the 25th and 26th. And we are going to be talking tonight to Mr. Jack Kenna. He is one of the guest speakers there. So, hello, Jack.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
And I'm jealous because you got to go to a Game of Thrones event and I didn't.
Oh, it was amazing. It really was.
That's one of our favorite shows here. I mean, come on, you guys have it all over there,
I think you guys over there have the best conventions.
Absolutely. Oh, well, I don't know. You guys get a few good ones that we don't get. You get a lot better Doctor Who conventions, I think, than we get, and okay. I'm sure you get a lot better Game of Thrones conventions. See, they just mix all that in with what we call Comic-Con, so it's everything, So,
yeah.
we had jealous of you for that.
We had Hodor there, and the young Hodor.
The young Hodor, yes.
Yeah, there's
so you had the Hound there too. Not to get off subject.
No.
We're here to talk about something else. But
the real Hound wasn't there. It was just someone dressed up.
Dressed like him. Okay.
But gotcha. Yeah, there was loads of guys on horses and jousting matches and all sorts. So it's fantastic.
Awesome.
So if anyone gets a chance, go to one. Absolutely try it. It's fantastic. But yeah, we're here to talk about the Ruthven Control Tower convention on the 25th and 26th of August. So you said to me earlier that you wasn't sure which one you're going to be at.
Well, I'm not going to physically be there, but I will be there through Skype. I'm not sure if we're doing both days or one day, but I'll be Skyping over to. I don't know which day. I haven't talked to Alex specifically about which day or if we're doing both days. Potentially we could do both days because I'm going to be at another event at Buffalo Central Terminal in Buffalo, New York. So we kind of talked about it and thought that, since I can't make it over there, it'd be kind of cool if we could, I could do live broadcasts from another haunted location in the United States to their place where they're doing their event there. So give everybody a little mix. Yeah, I think it'd be kind of
that would be cool.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to figure that, sort all that out, and I'm sure that's where I'll be. I'll actually be in Buffalo Central Terminal while I'm Skyping over there to them.
That could be quite an interesting experiment on its own, international EVP session.
Yes, we could do that. We could try that. It is a well-known, and I was there last year too, and we had some really interesting activity there. Rick McCullum was there last year too, who I know they've invited to come. I think they invited him this year, but he's like me. He's other things going on already. But I know they invited him. Talking about in the future, talking about 2019, Alex and Helena invited him next year to next year's event too, which he is going to go to, and
Fantastic.
You might see me there as well because in another year I think I'll be able to actually get over there with Rick since I'll have a travel partner too, because we're buddies, we're pretty good friends and stuff. So it'd be kind of cool to get over there and actually be in the UK for the event. So I think that'll be awesome. But this year, we're going to Skype it in. We're going to talk about hauntings, ghosts, and demons, and whatever everybody wants to talk about. The different TV shows I'm on, which I know air over in your guys in the UK too. They have different names over there, I found out, though, which is interesting. So, they call it I think Haunted Case Files over there with you guys is called Paranormal Investigators. And then Paranormal Survivor, I think it's called something else. I don't remember what that one's called. But but it's all the same shows. So different names.
That's strange. Why do they do that?
I don't know. The only thing I can think of, it must be like contractual things, I don't know. I don't get into that depth of it with the production companies, so.
Yeah, it's probably worth more. You get a double whack for it,
Yeah, I don't know, because the production company is a Canadian company out of Toronto, so I don't know why they changed the names, but there's got to be something something contractual or something about it.
Yeah, possibly.
Well, the funny thing was, though, I did find out originally Haunted Case Files, which is called here, was going to be called Paranormal Investigators, which is what you guys call it over there.
Yep.
So they made the name change for the United States, not for the UK, because that was the original name of it. So Lord only knows what's going on. Probably has to do with like Destination America and all those cable networks. And we want a different name. We don't want to call it that. God only knows.
Yeah.
So, Jack, what is it like working with a production company on a paranormal investigation? Because we hear so many tales about what happens, so much faked evidence and that sort of stuff. So what is it actually like doing a television investigation?
Well, for our shows that we do, they don't really go along with us. We're interviewed at a later date, and then they take our actual footage, put it into from our real investigations, put it into the show, and they do reenactments. So like what you see on the shows that we're doing, Paranormal Survivor, Haunted Case Files, that's the actual stuff we captured. That's the real evidence. I mean, we were doing those for not the purposes of television. We're doing these to either try to help individuals or try to find answers for a historical site, things like that. So the idea behind what we were doing was never TV related. So what you see is the real deal. I do know many of the other guys who work on the more reality-based shows, which they follow them around. And, the evidence is what it is. I mean, what you see is the real evidence. Do they play the shows up for TV? Of course they do. But they don't fake evidence. I don't believe. I know these guys, and I've known them all for a long time. Jason Grant, Scott Porter, I've known for a couple years now from the Wraith Chasers show. And although I've never met Zach Bagans, Zach is who he is. A lot of people don't like him. Look, the guy is who he is.
I love Zach.
He's a great self-promoter. I've never met him, but I heard he's a very A-type personality, which means he's all about Zach, which is fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think
someone's got to be about him.
Even I don't think he would ever create evidence. I mean, your reputation rides too hard on that. You get caught doing that, you're done in this field.
Yeah.
So even a guy like that, I don't think they would fake anything. I mean, there's been times where you'll see their shows and they're like, well, we heard these noises, but we can't say what it is, so it's it's undetermined, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what's happened to them there is some of their crew that go with them make noises to make it more scary for the show, but they never claim it to be paranormal. Matter of fact, Zach just does the opposite. He says, I can't say that's paranormal.
Yeah, I think...
I think they do it without him knowing that they're doing it at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't think he's totally... He's aware they might be playing a game on him, but he's not jumping to that it's paranormal. He's debunked people on his own shows, right?
Yeah.
Where I don't know if you guys, anybody remembers one show they were doing where they were investigating one of the more famous hospitals or whatever, and they had the guy on the show who was holding up a K2 device, and the guy throws it and claims it was hit out of his hand, and they go back and they rewatch the footage and you're like, he threw it. It wasn't paranormal. They called him out. So that's why I don't think he would ever do anything like that himself. He knows, they know their reputation's on the line. So I think the evidence you see is real. The rest of it, sure, it's television. It's played up a little bit. That's what TV's about. TV's about entertainment. right?
True.
So you got to take it with both ends there. So, and I don't have an issue with that. I mean, TV is TV. Production companies want results, right?
Yeah.
Of course,
Right. Yeah. Well, they're looking for ratings, right? So
Yeah.
they're not, but these guys aren't going to make stuff up for that, you know.
Okay, cool.
No,
So,
I think.
So when you first, sorry, Paul.
I'll wait for Kerry to go. Go on, off you go.
So when you first started with the TV side of it, was you sort of a bit blown? I mean, I know you go out, you do your investigations, and they sort of like do the rest of it in the studio with the voiceovers and stuff like that. Was you a little bit bewildered by it all, or was it just like an extension of what you were doing anyway?
No, it wasn't. No, I just kind of went with it. It wasn't expected actually either. I mean, we responded to an email that probably went out to every team on the East Coast, and just out of curiosity, we responded to it. And I ended up calling the woman from Our House Media, as a production company. I talked to her for a couple hours, and what I liked about them was they answered all my questions. A lot of places, if you call them, they're like, "Oh, I can't tell you anything. We can't." Blah 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 blah. Nah, and you can tell they're not legit, but. Because we used to get a lot of that stuff and be like, yeah, whatever, and not bothering with it. But they had a website list. I went to their website, and they were doing a lot of reality shows, none paranormal. It's because Paranormal Survivor was going to be their first paranormal show that they've ever did. And but I talked to them for a couple hours on the phone, and she's like, well, do you have a couple or somebody who wants to tell their story? Because Paranormal Survivor is about the people who survived a haunting, not about the teams.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, yeah, we just helped a young couple out a few months back. Let me see if they're interested. And I contacted them. They were out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And they were interested in telling their story. So we connected all that up, and we did that very first season. I think we ended up being episode 6. And we went to film. And I kind of knew what to expect because they told me everything. They're like, well, we're going to have a crew of about 5 people there. You're just going to sit and be interviewed. It's very relaxing. Don't worry about it. They'll buy you lunch, blah, blah, blah. You didn't get paid. So they'll buy you lunch.
But they'll buy you lunch. Yeah. That's okay.
They'll pay for your gas and stuff like that, which I didn't even bother. It was actually where they went was like 10 miles from my home. So I didn't bother. But we went out for lunch and stuff. They're good people. It was a lot of fun. We had a good time. And I think you can hear something in the background. Hang on a second. I'm going to close a window. Can you bear with me for just a second? It's a tow truck coming to pick up somebody's car. It's having a problem.
Wow. That's quite reassuring to know, though, about TV programs, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a different concept, isn't it?
It is. It's just like you can imagine doing... you have a vision in your head of how it works on these kind of TV shows. So it's actually quite refreshing to talk to somebody who's like, well, it is a TV program, but because of their own credibility, they're not going to risk that. Yes, there might be people faking it around them, which in the dark, it's quite easy to get carried away in the moment. I mean, we've seen that on the haunted hotel thing, didn't we, where one of the guests was throwing stones, and they were all reacting to it. It was only when they looked at the footage back they realised that was somebody doing that. But that's quite reassuring to know that.
I think in particular,
I'm back, by the way. I just got
okay, cool. I think with the British shows, they tend to do the following you around and trying to pick up what happens if anything happens.
That's true of a lot of shows too.
And as you said, with the ratings and stuff, they're trying to get the ratings, so they're gonna push for more things to happen, if that makes sense. Whether they're faking it or not, I mean, it has been accused so many times.
Well, like I said, what I think happens is production crews try to make noises and do stuff to get the investigators to jump or move or whatever to make it more exciting. But these guys have been doing this stuff for a while. Most of them are pretty smart and they'll investigate it to see what it was. Yeah. And if they can't figure it out, they're not going to say it was paranormal. They're going to say, well, we don't know what caused that.
Well, that's it. I mean,
they're getting in the back of their mind, son of a gun, if you do that again,
I'm going to kill you. Have you ever caught anybody faking stuff on one of your investigations, on any investigations, not necessarily TV, but any investigations?
Well, I'll say this about with Spirits of New England. Before actually I came on the team, they had trouble with an individual who was faking evidence. And this was just on a team. I I mean, they weren't doing TV, they weren't doing anything, but this particular individual just wanted to, I guess, stand out. Show how important they were. And the thing they caught on to, now I knew them at the time, and they were asking me, a couple of the other team members were saying, Jack, what do you think about this? Can you listen to this? And he says this in EVP. He was always catching things alone. Nobody else was around him. And he'd say what great activity was happening. He'd say, oh, come on up. I'll show you the K2 activity. And there'd be nothing happening when the other person went up. Of course, he'd have, oh, well, it must have wore them out or whatever. Or they're not talking now, maybe because you're here. But they asked me to listen to a couple of EVPs one time. And I said, they said, what do you think about this? I said, that's his voice. And they're like, what? I said, it's that person's voice. You can't tell that. Because not knowing, being outside of it, and I'm just telling you, he's trying to change his voice to make it sound like something else. And you could hear it. I mean,
yeah.
And actually, there was a piece of forensic audio. There's an audio software. It's forensic software, and you can look up different things. And I ran it. And when you look at typically the fifth formant in a person's voice, it won't vary that much. And you can look at it through this piece of software, and you can tell if it's roughly the same person or not. And they matched, for the most part. I mean, there was just a couple digits off, and that's normal. And it's like, look, I can show you, it's him. There's nobody else up there with him. Why does everything always happen when he's not there? And I told him, I said, I'm not telling you what to do. It's up to you guys. But they watched him, and then they actually caught him doing it. So it does happen. Yes, there is people who will try to fake evidence for whatever purpose they have, whether it's just they want to be the most important person on a team, or they want to impress somebody, or they want to get people to go to more of their events or that they're holding, we've seen that happen with places too. And luckily those places get rid of those people because they don't want that reputation of, the guy's using a phone program to make the K2 go off. You don't need that stuff, but it does happen occasionally, not so much anymore. I think at least in our area, in the Massachusetts area, though, most of those people have been weeded out, so to speak. So, and everybody knows who they are and what they're doing, and kind of stays away from them. But yeah, it can happen. You got to be careful of that no matter what you're doing. And even on investigations that we do for residential stuff, I take a very close look at what's going on in the house, and especially when we're investigating there, and if anything's set up, if anything's been set up for us to experience what they say they're experiencing, and you got to keep an eye open for that. And I haven't seen it happen. But there's always a possibility it could. So you just got to be aware of it. They don't try to fool you. Again, I have not seen that with any cases we've done, but I have seen that with an individual who was originally on Spirits of New England. And I would never say who that person is. I would never want to ruin their reputation.
Oh, no.
Well, people learn from their mistakes too. So
yeah, we are human.
We are, and that's true about, I would say, even for the investigators who do the shows or do events and things like that. They want people to have a good experience, or they want stuff to happen. And sometimes, they can get into the mindset of, well, I've got to make something happen. Where they could make themselves believe it's paranormal when it's really not. You know what I'm saying there? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even I keep that in the back of my head all the time of, why am I doing cases for? Am I doing cases for television, or am I doing cases to help people? And you got to keep reminding yourself, you're doing these cases to help people, not for television. Heck with television. Television comes, goes, whatever. Focus on what you're really doing this for, and it's to help people. And that's what we do. But sometimes even I've got to remind myself of that, because your producer will get, well, I need more of this kind of footage next time you're filming. Oh yeah, I'll try, because they don't you have better footage of you guys investigating? And I'm like, no, it's not really what I'm doing it for. I'm trying to collect evidence, right? I'm trying to collect evidence. So I'm either, got the cameras focused on equipment or something like that. I'm not worried about following myself around and watching me investigate. That's not what I'm doing it for, right? So, it's like, yeah, and I tell them all the time, I say, like, Tom, that's not what I do this for. Remember, that's not what you want to do that? Send a crew down to follow me around then. Got time to think about that. He goes, I know. He goes, but, if you could. I said, well, I try to keep it in the back of my mind then, So occasionally what I've started doing is, like, if we do have something really strange happen, I will sit down and interview my investigators who experienced it. All right, which kind of makes sense for what I'm trying to do too. So that I don't mind doing. I'll sit down and go, okay, what just happened to you? Well, I was doing this and I got touched and it was right here and this is what happened. Okay, now we've documented at least a personal experience or something that just happened, which is good for the investigation too. But if we end up, somebody wants to tell their story we use that story for a show, then we've got a little extra footage for them. But it also helps us. So that I don't mind doing. So things like that, I try to keep, you try to keep in the back of your head. But you got to focus on what you're really there for and what you're really doing. And for TV shows, that's completely different because what you're there for is to make a show. Right? I mean, so you're not there really to help an individual. You're there to make a TV show. Right?
Yeah. It's a completely different ball game. So if it's like...
when they're following you around investigating, that's a whole another animal. And you remind people that who watch these shows and think, oh, I know how to investigate now. No, you don't. No, you really don't.
True.
Because the way they're doing things is different than we would normally do it if we were investigating for other purposes, to find out what's really going on, So you got to remind people that. And yes, you can pick up a few things from the show, but don't put all your eggs in that basket. That's for sure.
When you do your investigations, has there been times where you've taken celebrities along with you?
No, except me. If you count me, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
No, yeah, I'm joking because people say you're a celebrity. I'm like, yeah, right, okay, whatever. Don't think of yourself that way. Even I don't think any of us do, really. I mean, or most of us don't that do these shows. We just think, we're just doing something. It's a way to reach out to people in a different way through TV. But no, we don't I mean, I have investigated with Dustin Perry, and I have investigated with a few others in the field, but we don't bring them along for the purpose of saying, oh, we had to, this person investigate with us. Sometimes because we just know each other. So we don't look at it that way. It's just like, hey, we're going to be doing this. Do you feel like coming along? Because these guys actually like to investigate, by the way. I mean, they do it for other reasons.
Yeah, the reason you got into it is because you like the field and you like the research and you like the investigating side of it. That doesn't change just because you end up in the situation you're in now with like TV and stuff like that, and not like a celebrity type thing. Yeah. You had that passion to start with, which is what obviously got you attracted to the attracted by the networks, because you had that passion and that personality.
And you just hit the exact word. It's passion. People who really exceed, I guess you would say, in the paranormal, really do well in the paranormal, are passionate about it. And we're passionate about the work we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. And it has nothing to do with television. It really doesn't.
True.
I mean, I just talked to Grant Wilson. I was at Salem Con a month ago, and I met Grant Wilson, who I hadn't seen in years, and he's living down in Virginia, I think now. But he's still investigating. He's not on TV. He's still investigating. We were just talking about those type of cases, and we were talking about negative cases and how there seem to be more of them lately, and we don't know what's causing that. He agreed. He's like, yeah, more cases. I'm seeing more and more negative type cases. It's like an influx of them all of a sudden. We don't know why that is. And we're just talking about cases with helping individuals, right? Nothing about TV, nothing about any of that stuff. So, they still do it because they're passionate about it. And you go to events where there's the TV guys and you investigate with them. It's fun. And, you can learn a lot from those guys, if you ask them the right questions, because they're there to talk to you. They're there to help you learn if you really want to learn. So I always tell people, when you meet these guys who are in this field and they've been doing it, they've been doing it long before they were on TV, and they know a lot. So pick their brain,
Well, this is exactly what we've said, isn't it? It's forget what you see on the TV. It's the work that goes on behind the TV. And, you have to talk to people to find out what goes on behind the scenes and some of their theories and their research that they're doing on, which never, ever gets told about, really, never gets put out there. Like Brian J. Cano doing the telepathic interaction regarding apps, and he's had really good reactions with that, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I know Brian. Brian's another guy who I would love to just go investigate with sometime, just hang out and do a real investigation, and but I've met Brian several times, and some of my friends on my local team here, Extreme Paranormal Encounter Response Team, they're really good friends with him, even more than me. But yeah, Brian's got, he's got some interesting stuff he's doing. Even me, I mean, I've been working with apps for quite a while, and I've been getting good responses with them, and it's my opinion is I can use anything, right? It's a matter of explaining to whatever might be there how to interact with it, how to potentially interact with it, and then watching what happens and seeing what's going on, and see if you start to get some type of activity on it and using it the right way. I mean, when you're using apps, your phone has to be in airplane mode. You can't have the signal coming in and out, or you'll get false information. You got to leave it on for a certain amount of time to let it warm up and let it quiet. When you see it go quiet, there's no stuff coming through it. Then you can start asking questions, because typically it should just stay completely quiet and never show you anything, right? Typically. Right, but there is other mechanical things that can cause, like blips to appear or an energy spike, but you shouldn't get any words. And that's what we've noticed is once gets quiet, and it's quiet for quite a while, and then we suddenly hit on a right topic, all of a sudden we start getting responses. And I use the Ghost Radar app a lot, and what I'll say is give me 2 blips for yes and 1 for no in response to yes and no questions, and it'll do it. Suddenly it'll start, if I hit the right thing, it'll start doing it inconsistently. So that tells me, okay, I could be communicating with something. So it gives you a train of thought to follow. So, and it allows you to ask better questions. Are you really talking to something you really don't know at the time, but you just go with it, right?
Yeah.
See what happens. And then you'll know later on if you caught also EVPs at the same time or you had other activity at the same time. It's never just one thing. It's not just what you're getting from the app. It's what else is happening as well. So you got to put all that data together and look at it and go, oh, maybe I really did have something. Oh, there's some words that came through that connect directly to the history of the location. That's interesting, right?
Yeah.
These are names of people that you can go into the history of the location, find those are actual names of people within the family or who live there or whatever that work there. And you can find them. It's like, wow, all right, that's a little bit more than coincidence. So, but a lot of it's done after the fact. A lot of figuring it out is after the fact. But the apps can help you. It's a kind of a cheap way to do it. But I always tell people, I want to buy this equipment, that equipment. I said, you got a cell phone? Yeah. Is it a smartphone or an iPhone? Yeah. Okay, you pretty much got everything on there you need. You got a digital recorder. Yeah. You got a flashlight. You got a camera. You got a video recorder. Oh, you can download some apps that might be useful to you. Everything's on that darn phone that you need.
There is a huge train of thought, though, that you shouldn't take your phone on investigations.
I know. But
there is a huge side, side thought.
Yeah, there is. I mean, you want to make sure it's in airplane mode when you're using it, so you're not getting incoming, outgoing signal, stuff like that. But my point always is to people who are just looking at starting out, and they don't know if they're going to really get into it or not. Start with something you already have that can be useful. Don't spend a lot of money right away.
True.
And that's my point. But try to find some people in the field to work with and learn from. And then go from there. Then spend whatever on a K2 or spend. You can buy a decent audio recorder for not too expensive, so maybe that's worth an investment over your phone's recording device. But, there's some things there you don't have to spend a lot of money right away to try to see if you really have a passion for it or not. Because a lot of people I know bought all the stuff, all the equipment, did it once or twice, and that was it. Now they've got all this money and they're selling it on eBay. right? And I'm buying it because I can get it cheap now. So
yeah, true.
But that's my point. There is certain things you can do, and that's part of what my newest book, Paranormal Research, talks about, is that type of things. And what end of the spectrum are you on? If you're a beginner, you may want to start with this. If you're more deeper into it, well, you may want to go a little bit more pricey for some of this equipment, because obviously you've been doing it for a long time now, and you want something that's going to maybe get you better potential for collecting evidence. So you want to spend a little bit more money. And you got to go by budget, right? What's your budget? And we talk about that. We talk about a lot of things in that book, not just equipment stuff. We also talk about talking to spirits. Like, people just talk about talking to spirits, right? And people typically, the old thing was go in, hey, we're here to talk to you. Did you die here? Did you live here? What was your name? All these questions, right? I'm like, okay, if you first walk in and you first meet somebody and you walk into their home, you're meeting for the first time, how are you going to talk to them?
True.
Think of that. That.
Yeah.
Talk because you're talking to me when I'm going into these places that are haunted. I'm talking to a person. Treat them like a person, because I don't know what I'm dealing with yet, so I'm just going to talk to them that way. And it's a nice approach, I think, because it's a relaxed approach and it's a non-threatening approach. Going in saying, you need to talk to me or we're going to chase you out. Yeah, good luck with that. I'm going to throw you out of my house. How's that? And that's why investigators get the get out so often.
I can imagine.
Coming to somebody's home and you're rude. You're being rude to them. If somebody came into your home and was rude to you, wouldn't you tell them to get out? Sure, I would. So I talk about that, taking a different approach and saying, hey, my name's Jack. I'm here to talk to you, and I'd like to learn more about you. And is there anything you'd like to talk about? And then you sometimes find spirits don't even want to be talked at, right? They'd rather join in on your conversation.
Yeah.
You guys must have, if you're into it, you've seen that.
Well, that's it. It's just a different.
You're talking, and all of a sudden, one of your devices starts acting up. And it's like, oh, somebody's listening. I could tell somebody's listening. It's just all of a sudden we hit on a topic, and that K2 is going off, or the Ghost Radar is going off, or something else is happening, and it's like, that's interesting. So and then you kind of start, oh, do you want to join in? Is this of interest to you? And you keep talking, and you're surprised the EVPs and stuff you get, So they're like people. I mean, if we consider they were people, they're still people, and they're going to act like people, right? They're going to want to. Yeah, they're going to want to join in once they hear it's something they're interested in, And if you're at home, you're there to talk to them, they might interact with you better. I want to hear your story. I want to know what's going on, And even when we start talking about, you're scaring the people in this house. Do you realize that? Because they may not. Sometimes I do believe that not all spirits are negative, and sometimes some are desperate for attention.
Yeah, I agree.
They get somebody that moves into a home that can sense them. They're suddenly desperate to get that person's attention, and what desperate people do desperate things, right? So people start being bruised, scratched, hit, because they're desperate to get your attention. We can't always help them, but we can say, hey, you need to back off a little bit. We're here we've come to talk to you. So we're going to try to help you with whatever you want to talk about, but you need to understand what you're doing to the people living here, and you need to stop. Don't do that. It's not good, And if you need to talk to somebody, that's what we're here for. We're here to talk to you, And hopefully we get that across them. And we do a lot of times see activity dies down after that, after we've come in and done things like that. And maybe we're getting across to somebody. You never know for sure, right? None of us.
I think there's a definite correlation between when you go in, and particularly if you've seen a reduction in activity, you've gone in, you've listened to a story, and then you see a reduction in activity, and then, the activity ceases. It's because you was able to translate that story for that person, or resolve why that spirit, for want of a better word, is doing what it's doing. And if you can do that, that's awesome, isn't it? Because you've not just helped the living, you've also helped something that's incarnate.
Possession or paranormal refugee. Right? And it was to do with the times. We're all talking about refugees coming here and all that. But my point was, there's a lot of times that we help people. It's either a lot of times it's because they asked something to follow them or to come home with them, or they started talking to something in their home, so they invited it in. So my point kind of in that article is, well, who should I feel sorry for? The person who has this attachment now or that has these problems, or the spirit that they invited in that was desperate for help, perhaps?
Yeah.
Who do I feel sorry for? Who should I really be helping? And our point is we try to help both if we can, and just by dealing with them on a one-to-one basis and talking to them like a person. Now, sometimes you run into something that's negative, and you're not going to talk that thing out of anything. But you have to figure that out first. You have to go in and investigate and figure out what am I dealing with. You can't just assume anything, and then you can deal with it from there. If it's negative, you can deal with it in a different way. There's different things you can do, and none of that even includes being rude or spiteful or anything else to it. There's some other measures you can take to kind of push it out, right? Not just scream and yelling at it and whatever. That's only can usually make things worse.
I was going to say.
Yeah, we don't do that. We go other methods like, okay, you don't want to leave this way. Okay, we're going to come in with our other things that we do, and we're going to try to make it go that way. And we do that. We search for portals and try to close those, and I've been taught all that. And so, yeah, and people go, really, Jack, you believe in that stuff? I'm like, well, it's a spiritual realm we're dealing with here, so I can't discount it, right? I shouldn't discount it, things like that, because we were dealing with a spiritual world. Ghosts are spirits, and that's why I do like that term spirit rather than ghost or whatever. It's all the same thing. But we are dealing with that type of realm, so I don't want to discount things. And I've been able to find things that I can't explain. Why something's happening with the divining rods that I'm not making happen, or with I use a Saint Benedict medal hanging from a thread, and I'll be able to see this thing swing back and forth where there's maybe a portal, and be able to do my thing, and then have somebody else hold it again and say, all right, you hold it there and see if it does anything. And it just hangs there after. So the portal's closed. And we've seen a reduction in activity in a home after doing all that. So is it a mental thing? Is it power of suggestion? Who's to say? But or is it real? I mean, I believe in it, so I go from that route. I always, there's a lot of people out there, and Brian's one of them, says he's a skeptical believer. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm a believer. Right? I know what I believe, but I can go into a case and reserve my judgment on it. And not just assume there's something there, right? And I'm not looking for anything either. I'm just trying to see, using the devices, and then see what happens, see if something reacts, okay, or see if we get anything. But I mean, I've seen enough and experienced enough in my own belief systems. I believe there's an afterlife. I believe spirits exist. So I can't say I'm a skeptical believer because I've seen too much. I believe it. But I know where Brian's coming from when he says he's being skeptical, probably in the same means that I'm saying that I'm a believer, but I can go in and reserve my judgment about a location or things until I see what's going on myself.
You've got too much experience to just jump to the automatic assumption that it could be something not of this world. Yeah, not of this world, shall we say.
Right, because we found too, like with a lot of people who are experiencing activity, these people aren't used to it. They know what they see on TV and in the movies, so they're scared to death because everything's always evil and demonic and everything.
Yeah,
it's TV, right? It's forget what Hollywood taught you. I got to reteach you, okay? All right, so you go in, but they think everything's paranormal. It gets to a point where there's so much, they've experienced so much, they think everything that happens is paranormal. Oh, the glass fell off the table. That had to be the ghost. Well, no, there's water on the table. Probably when you put the glass down, it just kind of slid and fell off the table.
Yeah.
Or there's something, you put it at the edge of the table and it fell off when you turned away or whatever. I mean, now some things I have seen that are weird. I've found and the client was very credible. Glass that was on a countertop, and then when they come back in, the glass is face down in the middle of the room, in the middle of the kitchen. Well, it didn't fall; it would have broke. because it's a tile floor. So what put it in the middle of the floor? One of your kids, maybe. I don't know.
I must admit, when on one of
talking about it, but it's like, that's odd. But I won't say it's paranormal, but it's odd.
Yeah.
On one of our investigations, it was a wine glass, so it had a stem and a big base, and it was actually balanced on the edge of the glass. It was really interesting to see. It's just when I class myself as an open-minded skeptic.
Yeah.
And when I go to an investigation, I will ask two questions, basically: what and why. What happened? What caused it? And then why. If I can't explain what the cause is, then you look for the spiritual excuses, and it'd be, well, why did a spirit do that? It's almost looking into the psychology of a spirit, then, isn't it? Really.
Now you got the other end of it too. Yes, because a lot of what we do has to do with psychology. Especially when you're dealing with residential cases and individuals. A lot of it's psychology, and one of the first things I always do is have you talked to a psychologist? Because we have them fill out a 10-page or 11-page form. Some of those questions are: do you have psychological problems? Have you seen a psychologist? What kind of medications are you on? And you'd be surprised how quick a lot of them are to admit it. Yeah. I mean, and they'll tell you things other people that they won't tell family members or friends. Things that happened to their past. That's one thing I've noticed in every residential case. Well, let's say 99% of them. These people have something horrific in their past that they've never come to terms with. Yeah. Never talked to anybody about, not even a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And I'm like, you got to deal with this. Because I've found negative emotions and things you're holding back attract other negative activity, right? And they also make you a negative person. You just don't realize it, right? The type of people they hang out with, the type of people they connect with, and it's always abusive, and it's always because they were abused, and you do find that connection. They're almost drawn to it because they don't know how to get out of it. They haven't learned their self-worth. Right?
So do you think then that could be connected to some sort of telekinesis? So when you come to do like poltergeist activity, for example, now I believe most of that could be accounted by telekinesis from you got like the teenage children, girls, boys, whatever could cause that without knowing. But if someone hasn't dealt with a traumatic experience, do you think that could be focused enough to create some negative activity?
Yeah, I do. Especially at times, under the right circumstances. That person could give off a whole bunch of energy all of a sudden, right? And by holding something back, that it comes out in another way. So I do believe it's possible. I don't think they're aware they're doing it. It's not like some of the movies you see where they, I'm going to focus on that and make the house blow up. It doesn't work. It doesn't work quite that way. But I think yes, they make it happen. They just don't know they're making it happen. I've seen a piece like that with friends of mine who had teenage girls growing up, and one teenage girl would have her drawers would be pulled out, clothes would be thrown all over, and everything was neat before she left for school. But right after she left the house, all that stuff happens. And there was some fighting going on, arguing going on, so I think she was actually making it happen, just not aware, and that energy was left there to make a havoc of everything.
Yeah.
And they don't know. They think it's a haunting, and it's not necessarily a haunting of that kind, a spiritual.
Yeah, so, I must admit, I'm quite a big fan of these horror movies, and I do go and see quite a lot of them.
I do too.
And even then, I sit there and I think, well, what did that? Why did it do that? Why do spirits always hang around in the basement or the attic? That's what I don't know. It's like they've never lived in the floors between. It's basement or attic.
Yeah, because that's where you expect to find them. There's creepy places, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Back of the wardrobe they come out the back of the wardrobe as well.
Yeah, the back of the wardrobe.
I can't understand that. Definitely not. I can't understand under the bed. I can understand under the bed though. That's
well, a lot of things come from under the bed. A lot of scary things come from under the bed. Right? Hey, that's just your thing growing up. And that's it's like the scary clown will come out from under the bed and grab you. Something.
Exactly.
Something.
And when it's your turn to pass over, whatever, you don't want to be bored for the rest of your afterlife, do you? I'm
gonna hide under people's beds and grab their ankles. That's
it.
Just for the fun of it, right?
I'm going for the chain approach. I'm going to go rattling chains everywhere. That's the approach I'm taking.
Turn the doorknob slowly.
Yeah, the creepy doorknob turn.
Creepy doorknob. Yeah. I don't know. I might just stick to the drains and the red balloon.
Just mess with people. Then when people come to investigate like you guys, I'll be giving EVP answers that make absolutely no sense to you at all.
So much fun. So much fun. All of us paranormal investigators are going to have in the afterlife. I swear to God. It's going to get so much more interesting as we go further on in the investigation field.
Yeah.
We're going to get together and haunt all the new people,
Yeah. All the up-and-comings are going to be like, oh, my God, we had some amazing activity. And it's like a team that's passed like 10 years ago going, oh, that was such a good night.
Investigation again today with those humans, wasn't it?
Yeah, let's go hang out at this location again. It's great.
I think it's demonic now. Look at that,
I'm a demon. Woohoo! So Jack, what's the most active place that you've investigated?
Well, the most active place actually was there's a couple places now. One of the most active was actually a residential home in Springfield, Massachusetts. We had some crazy activity there. I saw a shadow figure standing 3 feet from me, but it didn't show up on my infrared camera, which just ticked me off. I wasn't afraid of it. I just got ticked off, and I'm like, shit, it's not in there. And then it faded away. But I caught a good EVP at that same moment because it looked like a female, right? A shape to it. And I caught an EVP right as I said shit. For my French there, but I said that. And EVP is a woman's voice saying didn't like me.
Oh.
So I think it was trying to get my attention or whatever. I don't think it wasn't evil or anything negative. And I didn't get that sense from it. But I think she thought I swore at her. When I'm really just swearing at, it's not in the camera, shit,
Yeah.
It's just disappointed, more than anything else. So yeah, it was female voices didn't like me, and it was a female-shaped shadow figure. So, but we caught on audio and camera. We caught on the audio somebody coming down the stairs from the kitchen area into the basement, walking through the living room area of the basement, all the way to the back room. And two of our investigators are down there, and they caught it all, but there's nobody coming through on the DVR system. And he would say, I hear people walking around here. And one of the investigators heard a woman humming at the same moment. The other one didn't. And he would say, I hear this woman talking, down here. And you could hear this woman's voice humming. Again, connects to the female shadow figure I saw and the female EVP we caught, right?
Yeah.
And we literally experienced everything that client experienced. And that's a case actually was filmed for Haunted Case Files Season 1 for Springfield, Mass. So if you watch it, everything in there we actually experienced. That's the real stuff we experienced. The other location would have been the USS Constitution. We had a lot of activity there, experienced a lot of stuff. Nothing bad, just old ship. People worked on the ship. Just sailors. Still there, kind of watching over that ship, and that's a U.S. Navy ship. The USS Constitution is the oldest commissioned ship in the U.S. Navy. It's old Ironsides, we fought against the Brits, I guess, in a war there somewhere. 1800 something, I forget, but we caught a lot of activity there, and one of the more recent places, which I usually don't do the stuff that's been on TV so much, but a bunch of us got together. We just went to an event, and we did Rolling Hills Asylum out in Western New York, and that had to be one of the most active places I had seen in a long time. Shadows, figures, disembodied voices, caught EVPs, a lot of activity. It was hopping all night long, and it wasn't set up, it wasn't rigged. 5 of us saw this shadow figure moving back and forth all at the same time, and it interacted with us for probably 15 minutes. And then it finally took off, and we heard a breath next to us, and I go, oh, and I said, oh, I think he got upset with us. We wouldn't leave because it was pacing back and forth at the end of the hallway.
Sorry, you just go now. It's past my bedtime.
Closer, we kept moving up on it little by little, and then suddenly we see it just disappear, and then we hear this breath between us all. It's like this, oh, like it was a, oh, I'm done with you people. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And right next to where we were standing was a stairway to downstairs. So I'm like, I think he took off. He got upset and left.
It's like, oh,
you know,
I'm out of here.
Out of here. These will go away, you know. I'm trying to scare them and they're not leaving, you know.
Is there, talking of that then, is there any situation you've been in where you have been literally scared?
There's not too many, but there's been a couple. One was on the Star of India, where I went with some friends of mine, and we got on. We were just doing they wanted to try to film a show for a potential TV thing. I said, yeah, sure, I'll come out and do it for you. I'll film it for you. So I was just filming them, and we have this activity start, and there's the three of us on the ship, me and my two friends there, and two ladies, and they're trying to interact with these spirits that's there, and all of a sudden, they were talking about a murder, right, that may have taken place on the ship. All of a sudden, on the deck above us is heavy, heavy footsteps pacing back and forth and back. And you could start to feel the negativity with this thing where I want to get off this ship. I really wanted to leave. But I'm like, okay, I can't because I'm with the ladies and I got to stay here anyway. So we can't. We're actually locked on the ship. There's a gateway where they lock it. You can't get off. If you were trying to get off, you'd fall in the drink. All right? You can't get around it. And it's either way. So nobody can get on, nobody can get off until they unlock it to let you off.
Oh, gosh.
So, fortunately, the one lady I was with, my friend Maritza, knew how to manipulate energy and stuff. She was able to kind of push it away. And you'd hear it go away. You'd hear it kind of back off.
Yeah,
Then it come back, and she did it again. It backed off again. And she finally got it to at least stay in an area where even when we came out after, when I'm just interviewing them about it, you could hear the walking again, pacing back and forth. Because we went up there, up to the deck, nobody's up there. Nothing's up there. There was kind of a smell of like vomit or whatever, but nobody and nothing there. I was like, what is going on? That was one of the times I felt like I didn't want to stay there. I wanted to get the heck out of it. But we stayed, and everything was fine after. And we captured a lot of really good activity, actually. And that's one thing I tell people. When you feel like you want to run, don't. Remember what you're there. Remember what you're there for. You're there to do a job. You're there to find out about the paranormal. If you want to find out, you better not leave because something's about to happen. Whether it's a really good EVP capture or whether you suddenly start getting, footsteps or bangs or a disembodied voice or something, but stay, don't leave, stay. I mean, if you really have to, leave, yes. But if you can hold out, stay. Stay. Because it's really weird that's about to happen and you're going to regret it if you leave. I've never had anything terrible happen, but I've had some strange things happen. And basement of the old Houghton Mansion up in North Adams, Massachusetts. It was the next morning. We investigated there all night. The next morning, I went down to pick up equipment, and I couldn't stay there by myself. It felt just like whatever it was really didn't want me there at all. I actually had to go up and get one of my other investigators to come back down with me to pick up the equipment because I didn't want to be down there by myself. That scared me. I don't think anything was going to happen to me, but at the same time,
it's just that feeling, isn't it? It's just that feeling of a bit creeped out.
I felt like me up or attack me or something. Like I don't want to be here by myself. And even though I did, I went in, we grabbed the cameras and everything I needed to grab and got the heck out of there. And that was the next morning. That wasn't even at night.
Yeah,
that was the next. After the investigation. So it can happen anytime. You just don't know when it's going to happen. But I mean, since then, I've learned that, all right, well, you start to feel that way, push forward. Don't back off from it, push forward, and stay and do what you got to do, because you'll find the activity will die down. It can't last very long. It doesn't last very long.
No.
In the case of a true demonic haunting, yes, you could potentially get hurt. But again, you don't know what you're dealing with until the moment it happens. So I would say if you found yourself staying and you suddenly find yourself across the room and you don't know how it happened, get the heck out of that house. That again, I woke up and I was on the floor. What happened? Oh no, leave. I'll just leave.
Yeah, time to go.
You don't. So
So
but
what's
I
your...
do find myself chasing after things rather than running away from them these days. So.
But that's the point, isn't it? You're out there to try and experience and capture and build up, that data that hopefully will leads us to what we are actually dealing with, and prove that. So to run away is sort of like silly to do with it, really. You've got to sort of be in it to get it.
Productive, that's for sure. I mean, if you're going to run away to start with, what'd you go to begin with for? I don't know. I mean, yeah, we see that on TV, and I get that on TV. I would tell you that those guys you see that that do that on these shows, I don't think they normally would do that. That's for the show. Yeah. It's to make it scary. And well, if that big guy's afraid, well, I should be right. Yeah, okay. I don't really think he's as afraid as he acts he is, but they're told, and that's where again it differs from real investigating, differs from TV investigating, because at the moment it happens, a lot of times you're not necessarily afraid of it. You're like, what's causing that? What the heck is that? What's making that thumping noises, up above my head? And to be honest, even on the Star of India, I was initially more concerned somebody got on the ship than it was a ghost. Because I'm like, if it's somebody on this ship, it's not anybody that's supposed to be here. And there's a lot of drug addicts and stuff that wander around that area at night. So yeah, you don't want to really confront them.
No, not really.
They could be more problem than a ghost. I mean, and that's the truth. I mean, the living is more dangerous, I think, than the dead are. In a lot of ways. You got to worry. You can investigate some of these locations. You got to worry about running into people who are, vagrants on the streets, and they're just looking for a place to go hide, especially if you start getting into even investigating locations that are abandoned and you have permission to be in there for. You don't necessarily know who got in, right? True. You have to sweep those areas beforehand to see if anybody's around, and make sure there is no vagrants in there, because they're just looking for a place to hide, sleep. You don't want to run into them. You don't want to have to deal with them during an investigation. So, there's a lot of things that I say, stick with it. When you're investigating something really does happen, investigate it. See what it is. It may not be anything paranormal. It may be a rat, maybe a cat, maybe something else that's making all that noise. You don't know until you check it out,
True.
So that's our job, right, as investigators, to investigate.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Most definitely. So, Jake, you've written some books, haven't you?
I have. I've written a couple books. One is called Hauntings, Ghosts, and Demons, and that is a kind of a fun book, really. It's based on some of my team's investigations, as well as a couple made-up stories. But I've built the real techniques we use into the stories, and I built some of the real evidence that we've captured into some of these stories, where you can go on our website and actually listen to that audio or look at the video from those investigations, and check it out. And then there's, like I said, a couple totally made up stories, but they still deal with the paranormal, and some of it even deals with one of the stories really kind of is dealing with having very vivid, not necessarily a dream, but you're dreaming something, but you're getting a message delivered to you. Right? So it deals with that. One of the stories deals with that. So yeah, it's kind of a fun thing. And then there's some other things in the back. My very first investigation I ever did when I was in my 20s, with no equipment at all, is at my mother's house. And I won't get too detailed except to say there's a door that would always open to this one closet. You could latch it shut, and it shouldn't open, but it would always open on its own. Because my mother always said, whoever's in there doesn't like that door shut. They like it left open. And I had a very interesting experience with that, with just trying to debunk the door opening. And couldn't do it, but that door would open And I had no explanation for it. So there's that in there. There's some other articles in the back, my own thoughts on things in the paranormal. So that's a very interesting book. Again, that's Hauntings, Ghosts, and Demons. It's available on Amazon.com right now, or Amazon. It's the UK. It's available in the UK from Amazon.
Mhm.
And interesting feedback on that from investigators. They're actually getting investigation techniques out of it.
Excellent.
I never thought would have happened, but that's a lot of the feedback. It's like, Jack, you really got some great techniques out of this book. I'm like, really? It's supposed to be just kind of fun, but okay. I'm like, no, I really enjoyed the stories too. But they're learning something from it too, which is good. Which is
even better, yeah.
Yeah, and then the next book is be officially out on June 28th. It's available for pre-order right now on Amazon or also on BarnesandNoble.com. Is called Paranormal Research, A Comprehensive Guide to Building a Strong Team. That's coming out from Schiffer Publishing, is my publisher for that. That'll be June 28th. It is, again, available for pre-order right now.
Cool.
And that gets more into the real, type of investigating equipment to use. If you do want to work with clients, it gets into what you have to look at to do that. It gives the form that we use is in there, the 11-page form we ask people to fill out, which anybody can use it. We didn't invent it. We got it from somebody else. We modified it for our own purposes. And it talks about a lot of things, investigation techniques and just type of questions to ask. The right type of questions to ask as compared to the canned questions, which typically get you nowhere. It talks about that and a bunch of other things, and where this equipment, all these different equipments, the digital recorders, the infrared camera, what a little bit of the history of these things are, what they were designed to do, and then how we use them and what we use them for, and how we can best use them to improve our chances of possibly getting evidence of paranormal activity. Because nothing we use is designed to catch a ghost, all right? Nothing. No. It's designed for other more normal purposes or more man-made purposes. But that doesn't mean you can't use them, to try to communicate with the deceased. So, and it does work. Everything that we get says it works. So we talk about all that. I always talk about the applications, the ghost apps and stuff like that. And then I also do include 4 or 5 of our actual Spirits of New England's team investigations. What we really did there, what went on, what happened, what evidence we really captured, and then also insights from some of our investigators as to what that investigation meant to them, what they got out of it, and what impact it had on them. Because every investigation we do has an impact on us for what we find out or what we deal with ourselves during that investigation. And so I put that in there, and I think that's a little bit different than what's been done before. So you're getting some insight from somebody who was actually there and what it really meant to them.
Because it can be quite profound, can't it? It can have quite a profound effect on you personally.
Yes, it can. And that's something, and I think that's a big part of what draws people to the paranormal, is it does have, and it can have a profound impact on you personally. Of just something that's small, something you didn't expect. An example for me is my favorite EVP that I ever captured was on the Constitution, and we were being given a tour of the main deck of the ship, the gun deck of the ship, towards the bow, which is what they called the manger area, where they kept live animals in the 1800s because you didn't have refrigeration, so you kept live animals and they butchered them for food, right, as you went. And so the guy's talking about, he goes, oh yeah, they kept cows, pigs, chickens. And then you hear this young boy's voice. There was no young boys with us, but a young boy's voice saying, and a bear, in a very heavy New England accent.
A bear?
Bear. And we didn't know what it meant at the time. But when we played it back for the captain and his officers, captain's jaw drops. I'm standing 6 feet from him. His jaw drops. He looks back at his officer. He goes, Commodore Scrappy. We're like, what are you talking about? Commodore Scrappy, black bear cub they kept on the ship as a mascot in 1932. We're like, what? We didn't know that part of the history yet, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's good. That's good. 1932. Okay, so this boy knows about this bear in 1932. But when I look back at the history of all the boys, they were designated boys at the time that died on the ship, they all died in the 1800s. Right? There was 5 of them. 2 fell from the mast, 2 died of bilious fever, and 1 drowned. Right? So if you ask yourself that question, how does a boy who's probably about 12 to 14, who died in the 1800s, know about a black bear cub from 1932?
Yeah.
He's still there. He still exists. His
And
consciousness
and he was still there while that bear was on board for him to know about it.
still there as far as 2010 when we investigated it. So he's still learning. And we had a lot of interaction with that particular individual over 2 nights that we were there. He even opened a door for the bosun's mate, scared the heck out of him. We caught him laughing when he's closing the door for us. We caught his voice several times. Even in the one bosun mate was giving commands the second night, and he got a response. The only response he should have got was that young boy's voice to one of the commands. And it's like, wow. They're like, this kid is here. And the thing was, that was one of their reports, seeing a young boy on the ship. You know, a blonde-haired young boy running around the ship. And one of our investigators saw the face of a young boy peeking around this one door that we kept having closed for us later on. And they asked her, what do you look like? Well, he had like sandy blonde hair, young, maybe like 12, 14. They're like, oh, that's who we see.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, so that kid is still running around, and he's still learning.
Yeah.
You know, he's still interacting.
That is amazing.
But that for me was profound, because that's right there. Boom, there is life after death.
Yeah.
Indeed.
There is life after death. How else do I prove that? There was no kids with us. There was no young boys with us. We caught this boy's voice about 5-6 times.
Yeah.
One of our people saw him. You know, other people have seen him on the ship. He's still there. He's still hanging around. So, and he's happy.
He must have loved it. I was going to say he must have loved it. So it's why he stays.
Very happy there. People say, why didn't you cross him over? Well, number one, I don't have permission to, because this is owned by the U.S. Navy. I don't have permission to do that. Number two, he's seen everything we caught. He seemed pretty content to be there.
Yeah, it wasn't like in distraughtness about it.
Happy. No, he was, hey, to me, it's like when he said, and a bear, he's like helping to give the tour and say, hey, tell him about the bear. Don't forget about the bear, you know?
Yeah, there was a bear.
You got to think about it. It would be very, very cool and very important to a 12, 14-year-old boy, right?
Oh, that would have been very cool.
Was a bear.
Very cool, exactly. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, I could imagine almost him playing with that cub, interacting with it somehow, you know, while, you know, he's dead. So, I mean, he's deceased. But somehow in 1932, he may have been trying to interact with it at times, you know, or hanging out with it, you know. Maybe the bear knew that. Nobody else knew that, you know. But you can imagine some of those. I mean, that's your imagination taking over after. But the EVP says he saw it. He knew it.
Yeah.
It existed. And it was important. Yeah.
Maybe still on the payroll.
Kid on the payroll. Tell him to polish the brass at night while you're asleep. You know? So you come in the morning and the brass is all polished. You guys got to do less work, you know.
Yeah, indeed.
So,
God, that'd be awesome if you could get your household spirits to help out with the housework, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it?
Good too. You know, if you could charge them rent, that'd be great.
Yeah, even better.
That's my intake on things. And yes, how profound just something during an investigation can be to an individual. You know?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think it's a side that people forget. They love the experience and going out, but the day after you can still have an emotional response yourself to what's happened, and sometimes that's not always a good thing. Sometimes can be a horrible thing for somebody to go through.
It can be, which is why they need to know there's other people in this field that they can turn to talk to about it.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Dear. So what's next for you, Jack?
What's next? Let me see. We got a couple events coming up. I've got one at Selma Mansion in Pennsylvania coming up on weekend of June 9th. I think after that is an event, Ocean State Paracon in Rhode Island in July. I think it's July 14th or is 21st? I always forget. I get my schedules all messed up. That's why I keep it on my phone. So, otherwise, I'm lost. I forget things. I'm getting old. We got a lot of things coming up. I'm actually working on another new book right now as well. It's taking a little longer than I hoped for, but just got a lot of stuff going on. And that will be an interesting book. And actually, Helena is involved with that book. She's going to be in that book. She knows that. You can talk to her about that too if you'd like. I'll give out the project name to you. It's going to be called Women of the Paranormal, and it's going to be a little bit different book, and it's going to be about 13 different women and different things they've done and their part in the paranormal and how they really, we don't really think about that, but I mean, people say Jack Kenna. I didn't found Spirits in New England. People think I did. I'm like, no, I always got picked up about a year later. I said, Ellen McNeil is the founder of that team. And there's a lot of women that are founders of teams that people don't realize it. And sometimes I think they don't get enough credit for the stuff they do. And it's part of the reason I'm writing this book. We just don't think about it. And the paranormal helped. It's even more than that because it gets into some things of the paranormal and how it helped them get through some very difficult times, and what it means to them. So it's kind of an inspirational kind of book that we're working on.
Brilliant.
Sounds good.
That's a little bit different than just haunted locations and different things like that. It's more of a personalized thing to reach out to people, and maybe they can find something for them in the paranormal that would help them get through something after they hear about these experiences. So that's where it's going. And I have a co-author in that, and it's Denise Garcia. And originally, Denise and I had talked, and it was an idea originally for what she wanted to do as a calendar. And I said, you know what, this would make a much better book. We can give a lot more detail, cover a lot more things, and be inspirational at the same time. And no, it was not going to be a very nasty calendar, Paul. Sorry. So, it was going to be very nice. Fun, whatever. No bikinis and all that.
Maybe you could do two versions of it. The book, the serious side, and then the calendar. Although Helena probably kill me for saying that.
Yeah, please note who suggested that. Nothing to do with me.
Honestly, Helena's going to slap my legs for that one.
On that. I don't know. She might. Yeah, I want to have.
I was going to say actually, she might go. Hell yeah, let's do that.
That's what she wanted for her picture for the book, and I said, no, we're keeping this clean. I'm sorry, Like it, Like it. Yeah, but a lot of people joke about this. Can I have a really sexy picture? And I'm like, no, we're keeping this a nice family kind of book, okay?
She's rocking out her Baskin high heels. You're like, no, not that kind of book.
The calendar, I'll let you girls discuss that amongst yourselves. You do your own thing there. Staying out of that. I'll get in trouble for that. So that's the next, but that is the next project. I have been working on it for quite a while, and they're probably wondering where it is. And sometimes it takes time because I get caught up with a lot of other things too. So, but that will be coming. That will be coming. It's going to have a lot of meaning to it, and it's going to be one of the dedications is going to be to a good friend of mine who passed away recently from ovarian cancer. So, and that's the other thing. This book is really going to be to, when it does come out, it's going to be tried kind of use it more like a fundraiser for things like that, for ovarian cancer or, for women's shelters or whatever. I'd like to see if it makes any money, whatever money comes from it goes to that, that purpose, to help people, help women especially. So it's kind of the purpose behind the book too, part of the purpose behind the book. So that's it. That's what I got for you, and that'll be a little ways before that book comes out, but that will be coming.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah, indeed. So, yes, we have actually come to the end of the show, and we've run over, as always.
Well, we always do on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
we always do.
Yeah, I'm allowed. I'm friends with the boss, you see, so... but if you want to catch Jack giving his speech over Skype at the convention, go to livingparanormal.net. That's where you can buy your tickets for the weekend event. It's the August 25th and 26th. And it's at Rough and Control Tower. And I'm going to be there. Kerry's going to be there.
I'm definitely going to be there, yeah?
Yeah, indeed.
It's going to be an awesome event, that's for sure.
We're all going to be there, and we'll sit there and watch Jack and ask loads of questions, I'm sure.
More
Definitely
questions.
Definitely do. Yeah.
They'll be like, God, it's only supposed to be an hour, 3 hours later.
I'm definitely looking forward to being part of that whole event. It's going to be an awesome event. I wish I could be there in person, but I'll be there in Skype and in spirit. So
Absolutely. Best way to be. So on that note, I just want to thank Jack for joining me tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I want to thank everyone that's been in the chat room, and of course Kerry Greenaway. So, yes, that's goodbye from me and Kerry.
And me. Good night. Good night. Thanks for listening.
Good night, and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.